Hi, I'm Steve Kostansky, director, writer, creature effects artist on The Void.
And I'm Jeremy Gillespie, and I showed up.
Oh boy, did you.
So I guess thanks for buying whatever you're watching this on,
Thank,
whatever that is in the future.
thanks for listening up to this point and then turning off the commentary.
This is probably a virtual reality movie for you. I wonder what it's like.
Tell us what the future is like.
Send us an email at void
Dot,
at void
dot net.
net.
So here we are on our one location day that we had.
Pretty brutal. This was filmed in December by this point, and it was cold as hell.
Yeah, the movie was originally supposed to be shot in the summer, but we had to push a few months. And the concern was that there's going to be snow everywhere and change our summer movie into a winter movie. But luckily, the snow held off, but it was still brutally cold.
Yeah, I remember checking sort of years previous that we shot this movie in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which is northern Ontario, which by all means should be very cold and covered in snow at this time of year. Looking at the photos from years past, basically everything was buried in snow and unrecognizable. So it was a shock that this kind of looks more like fall. And it was, good for us.
It worked out. It got hit with a blizzard right as we wrapped shooting and had to drive back to Toronto, which sucked.
Mm-hmm.
A little fun fact I want to point out, if you want to make a house look kind of dilapidated, just put old newspapers in the windows.
Yep. That was a great suggestion by Will, our props / set deck guy. Worked.
Very simple fix.
This is a very nice house. This is we lost our first house location. We lost all our locations on this movie. That's another story. But this house turned out pretty well. Our friend Chris, who is from the Sault Ste. Marie area, drove us around, and we just looked at houses and put letters in their mailboxes. And thankfully, this nice family let us in. But it's a really nice house.
Another fun thing I want to point out about that house that you saw previously was there's some rather obvious satellite dishes that we had to paint out after the fact. And that's going to be a running thing, I think, in this commentary, is pointing out shots that Jer and I had to do after the fact visual effects on to kind of clean things up. Because there was lots of moments like that.
This movie was shot in haste. We did the best we could, but there were certainly things that we saw we didn't like. So I think we did over 300 vis effect shots ourselves. A lot of cleaning things up and, steadying shaky shots and then adding shake to steady shots. Pretty bad way to make a movie. I wouldn't recommend it.
This has given us a little tour of the area around Sault Ste. Marie, which pretty beautiful location.
This is it. This is Sault Ste. Marie, what you are seeing. It looks like a ghost town in like a Twin Peaks land.
Yeah, the cool Stephen King-esque small town.
This stuff's really beautiful. It was shot by Michael Davidson, our, I guess, second DOP, the second unit DOP. He went out with a camera, and we gave him sort of a mission statement of just get, all these sort of beautiful vista, like weird, empty, haunted-looking places.
It was our only opportunity to really show the landscape and give some scope to the movie, because it is a very contained story. So it was nice to kind of ease into that, showing kind of the area that it takes place in.
Aaron Poole, the most intense man I've ever met. Such a good actor, so easy to work with, so committed.
We're on the track outside of the school right now. Another location we lost. We had a cool road that we wanted to shoot on.
We found all of these amazing locations, which the movie went down a couple times, and so in the interim we lost all the locations because another movie took them, and then basically burned them because they treated the people very badly. So when we came back, we were told couldn't use them anymore. Go fuck yourself.
Yep. But I gotta say, this worked out pretty good. It was one of those things where, when the idea initially was pitched to us, I wasn't entirely sold on the idea of shooting on a school track, but it looks convincingly.
It
like
does,
a-
and it didn't
road.
take like an hour and a half to drive out to with an entire truck of camera equipment that would have had to be unloaded and loaded and eat the entire day. I don't know. It all cuts together nicely. I'm happy with it.
That super sped up shot of the car driving away.
Yeah, this is just Aaron driving in circles around a school track.
Yeah. Well, I guess we painted out a lot of the lights and stuff, but there were periods where you could actually see the school behind him as he drove by, which is kind of ridiculous.
Camera tent.
Yeah.
Us sitting at monitors. This is, oh man, this night. This was
Jer's sad
personally one of my worst nights. This was, we had 2 night exterior days at the school. That amazing dolly shot that you just saw, it basically took half of a night to get done. Setting up the dolly track was a nightmare. There was a rainstorm. Everything was working against us. Sort of for the means that we had to make this movie, lighting an exterior like that is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it was maybe a bit ambitious for like the time that we had.
So I hope you love that shot. Go back and watch it. But yeah, that was a hell day. The rainstorm essentially destroyed one of our exterior night shoots. We had many problems that we'll get to when we go back outside, but I almost threw a chair through a window, so enjoy that.
Here's Matt Kennedy himself, a fun little cameo. Little cameo by our favorite horror film as well.
Yep, not mine.
You sure? I'm pretty sure it is.
I guess it's my favorite. What was that?
Night of the Dead, guys.
Oh. Yeah, this is Matt is an old friend of ours, and we decided that we should throw him in a cameo. Spoiler alert, he doesn't last long.
This is also day 1 and the scene 1 as well. This was like the first thing we did.
No. We shot Aaron and Kathleen in the other hospital room, but this is like the first big scene.
Well, this is the first dialogue scene that we shot. This is also day 1.
Yeah, and Ellen Wong, who is an angel, we were lucky to get her in the movie. Her and Matt, I think, had a really good repertoire between the two.
Repertoire, I think is how it's pronounced.
Yep, that sounds right. Anyways, they got along very well, and usually Matt is kind of I don't know. People kind of shut down when he's talking to them because he's sort of always on, and Ellen's the first person that I've seen who has like matched him.
Yeah, they definitely worked well together.
God, there's so many people. Everybody's good. Let's just say that. Everybody in the movie is good. We were lucky to get everyone. Kenneth Welsh, incredible. Can't believe we got him. Stephanie Belding, Kathleen Monroe.
Everybody really selling this high school that we converted into a hospital.
Evan convincingly passed out on the bed.
Yep. Nailing it.
Oof. This is a really good commentary. What are some fun stories? What are some funny things that happened?
This great gag. Sick joke, Aaron.
I call this the Steven Spielberg shot. Really proud of it.
Yep, this is all you, Jer. Your brilliant idea.
Very proud.
Yep. What time does it say on the clock there in the back, Jer?
Can't see it.
Why not?
I guess I'm not looking at the clock. I'm looking at these great performances.
Yeah, but that's a fun tidbit. Point out why it's set at.
Ugh, shouldn't have given it away. Hey, look at the clock there. What time is it?
You might need something a little stronger if you're going to.
Moving on.
I still drink coffee out of this mug, the police mug in my
Oh,
home.
yeah?
Yep.
I can do my own laundry.
It was disgusting when I got it. Somebody left it there with coffee in it for a week, so it was full of mold.
And you had to drink it.
Yeah, still drinking it.
I was looking for that.
I cleaned it many times. I'm not an animal. These two, I think, I don't know. They're kind of the heart of the movie, and I feel like they really took the roles and ran with them, elevated it quite a bit.
They really had a lot of great chemistry.
The script, I mean, what they had to work with, just the scrawlings of Mad Men.
A lot of, yeah, serviceable stuff to get from point A to point B, and they turned it into real scenes with like real emotions.
Acting like people.
Yeah, making this a real movie.
So we originally we had the entire movie sort of planned out with sort of a more classical film approach, locked cameras and dolly moves and all kinds of stuff that makes your movie look like a movie. And then you get there and you're like, oh yeah, we don't have time for any of that. So everything's handheld. Luckily, Sammy Inaye, our DP, is a genius and made everything look great.
Yeah.
Also, the camera operator, which is pretty great, did some nice work.
We're coming up on our first spooky scene. Building a little tension before that. But our first, I guess, real makeup effect sequence.
I should mention that Martin Tielli played that last music piece from the Rio Statics. He was very generous in doing that for us, so I'd like to thank him.
Beverly, are you okay?
Matt looking a little short in that bed.
His head is amazing, though. The fake head was so eerie to be around because it's so lifelike. It was such a great makeup piece.
But that body, I think we use that for kind of like every body we needed. So that becomes Art's body later on. It was kind of a generic one-size body. And looking
Right.
at it in that bed now, it's a little hilarious.
Matt is not a squat mutant man in real life. This makeup. Steve, talk about this makeup.
This was actually, as far as makeup effects go, this ended up being a lot more complicated than we were expecting. Mainly due to time, we weren't able to do any makeup tests or anything on this movie. It was kind of like, here's the appliances, go make it work. And so we found like our first go through of this when we shot it, that her cutoff face kind of looked like she just had jam on her face. So we actually had to go in after the fact and do a bit of cleanup. Our friend Doug Cook was very generous and
God for Doug Cook.
yeah, thank God for Doug. He added some cuts and things to her face to liven it up a bit. But I think Stephanie really sells that sequence, her performance.
Yeah, like the intention behind a lot of this stuff was to have very sort of calculated lighting, especially for all the makeup stuff. And I'm certainly not complaining. I think everything turned out really good, but we did not have the time to sort of, block out the lighting as carefully as we would have liked.
Well, it was our first case of something where we had to kind of go in and either clean it up or shoot inserts. There's lots of inserts throughout this movie that were done after the fact because, like you said, like we just didn't have time to do it on the day. So we kind of focused more on getting, get the scene and the performances, and then as far as creatures and gags and stuff, kind of do our glory shots of those after the fact.
This is an effect, a lens effect called Lens Baby, which is just a little piece that you throw in front of the camera lens and you shake it around and it looks amazing.
Cool stock clouds.
Shut up. I shot that.
Oh yeah, clouds made by Jer. So in this sequence, we're seeing little hints of a pulsing meat blob that
He had a bigger role in the movie in a deleted scene.
actually its role changed multiple times. Originally, it plays
the
later. It was originally Kathleen's expanding stomach, but then I ended up changing that to a different piece that I built, and we were going to repurpose that belly for something else that was going to happen later, and that sequence got cut. But we just loved the effects so much that we kind of dropped it into these vision sequences, and it works as a bit of like kind of abstract nonsense.
There's lots of the big VFX in those sequences done by Intelligent Creatures, a company here in Toronto where we are. And little filmmaker tip: if you don't have any money, don't do effects in your movie.
Gotta say, at the end of the day, the all the digital map paintings and stuff are really really
Product,
beautiful.
yeah, it looks great. It's a long road through hell to get there. But such is the,
And it's art.
process of having no money. Art Hindle, star of Porky's.
Black Christmas.
I like to think that he's playing the same character from Porky's in this. Don't remember his name in Porky's. I
Probably
assume it's the
Mr.
same.
Porky's.
His full name in this movie, Porky Mitchell. Sorry,
Porkins Mitchell.
Detective Porky Mitchell. And yep, I think he brings some sort of weight to the character. He's a pretty grim kind of guy in the movie, not in real life. He's very nice in real life.
So, this was obviously not shot chronologically. Maybe we should talk a bit like about the process for the actors in terms of like trying to situate themselves in these scenes. Because I remember having a discussion on this sequence, like where are they coming from before this, like where are they going, and just getting into that headspace.
Sure. I mean, so much insane shit happens in this movie so quickly that to pretend like you're dealing with it in any real way is probably quite a challenge for the actors.
I'm just like, it's really impressive how Aaron and Kathleen especially were able to just like drop themselves like into any point in the story and kind of like find where they would be emotionally.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that if you're watching a movie with a commentary, you're probably interested in film, probably interested in making film. So I think there's many things that we can impart in terms of making a movie, the reality of it, and shooting out of sequence, especially on an effects-heavy movie where people get covered in blood. That's a shitty place to be. Probably just schedule your movie in chronological order if you can, because figuring it out of sequence is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a real continuity puzzle.
And yeah, like you say, I think Aaron was always asking us to sort of keep an eye on where he was at in his performance. I guess just trying to keep it consistent. I mean, really, he's doing all the hard work, so whatever works is because of him. That's Steve barking.
That's my dog Bebop, also watching the movie with us.
He knows something's up.
He knows
It's too quiet.
he knows trouble's coming.
Dogs hate disciples.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Who did the graphics on this cop car, Jer?
Poof. Cop, I guess. We got really lucky. That emergency sign. We were, in fact, a lot of the dressing on this movie was bought from a different show that was having a set sale, and that was our kind of one ray of good luck. That and the casting. Those were the two things that worked in the movie.
Yeah, when we were doing Stephanie's head cast for the Beverly Monster, she was telling us that show in Toronto that she acted in had finished, and they were selling all their hospital gear, And so I believe
we bought it.
that weekend we went and we bought everything.
We should mention that this is a high school, not a hospital. We had to turn it into a believable hospital, mostly through the work of our very talented art department and carpenters. They did so much, you would not believe it. God, we squeezed so much out of the tiny amount of money that we had to make this. It's unbelievable. Now, the stunts, Wayne Wells was the stunt coordinator. Actually, another ray of sunshine on the movie. He was the best guy to work with.
He was always helping. Even if he didn't like have a stunt really to manage that day, I felt like he was always around, like ready to jump in and help out. He was always on top of things. It was great.
That stunt performer was very good too. He does a lot of the stunts in the movie. And
Took a pretty sick spill into that puddle.
oh yeah, got
Here's
wet.
one of our first creature inserts shot way after the fact. We needed a bit of connective tissue to establish that Beverly was transforming. Seemed like a bit of an abrupt shift to the thing she becomes, so that was our transition.
Right. So another lesson to potential filmmakers out there, man, really manage your expectations and the reality of the amount of time you have to shoot a movie, because God, we had no time for this movie, and we had to do so much creative problem solving, and a lot of that was done with inserts. Creature stuff takes for friggin' ever to shoot to get it right.
It's a very finicky process and not something that's going to work the first time or even the second time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it over and over again until you get something you like.
I would say just make a movie of people sitting in a room.
2 people in a room talking, or heck, 1 person in a room talking and the other person's on an intercom, if you want the simplest movie possible.
Well, is there a second person though? Or is it just them talking to themselves?
Ooh. I like the sounds of this intercom movie.
Okay, we should probably stop this and go
Stop the riff.
intercom. Stop the riff.
Ooh, let's talk about this Frankenstein scene.
VFX shot.
Yep.
Huge VFX shot.
Yeah, Jer had the thankless task of putting in disciples.
Every disciple
standing
shot in
inside.
this movie is an effects shot. Every single one. That's an effect shot. The knife.
Even the knife is
if
an
you can
effect
believe
shot.
it, we couldn't even shoot a knife.
Couldn't
properly.
even shoot a real knife. Had to do that after the fact. Ooh, and here comes our first creature moment.
Yeah, this was a big thing. This is a good example of probably if we had had more time would have lit this differently.
This was an all hands on deck sequence where we had like every member of the creature team doing something in that room, that tiny little room, people hiding behind the bed, operating tentacles.
We even roped one of the Indiegogo supporters into having to work on the movie.
Yeah, he was working the pneumatics in the face, and that's Michael Walsh in the creature suit there. It's the Beverly monster. Very uncomfortable suit for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, this whole thing must have been hell for him.
Basically strapped into a harness that he had to like carry on his back, and then he had kind of compressor operated tentacles, like pneumatic tentacles going past his face. So it was pretty miserable, but it looks great.
Yeah. So this was another crazy shooting day. This is basically the entire cast yelling at each other in a room.
Yeah, this was the day we were the most scared of, I think.
Yeah, having 11 actors, probably this was shot in half a day, this whole sequence. So having to block this out with 11 people, it's supposed to just kind of be chaos, which it was for sure.
But just trying to like manage that many people and keeping track of just how we're shooting at angles, not like crossing the line
lines.
of action or anything. Like it was just such mayhem.
Total mayhem. And we have 2 cameras going here, so both Sammy and Michael are shooting at the same time, which saved us, because I don't think if we had one camera unit for the entire movie, well, we wouldn't have been able to finish. It wouldn't be possible.
There's also a blood gag coming up, so that complicated things because we essentially had to break the sequence into 2 parts, like before blood spurt and after the blood spurt.
Right, and then blood has to be everywhere in the second half. And, we did have Daniel shoot off that rifle like first thing of the day, and that thing is loud as fuck.
That definitely set the tone.
Yeah, nobody
for
was
the rest of the
expecting
day.
how loud that thing was going to be. So once that thing went off, everybody became very serious. Effect shots.
All VFX.
Having to drag poor Art on that
little
dolly
cart. Yeah. Poor Art, wrapped in tentacles, being dragged through a door. I love Aaron's intensity there, grabbing the axe and running off.
Mm-hmm. Another half day to shoot this entire thing.
Full of gags.
Oh my
This is like one of
God.
our biggest sequences.
Insanity.
And of course,
Late start.
and another crazy lighting gag that
There's supposed to be sparks falling here too, but the effects guys couldn't get the spark machine working.
yeah, there was a lot of things that weren't exactly working on this day, unfortunately.
On this movie, you mean? A lot of things.
But man, there's some great shots of Beverly here.
Oh yeah,
And I love that stunt.
that's a great stunt by I can't remember his last name, first name also Aaron. Great stunt man.
Yeah, he slammed into that wall like a champ. And again, Michael in the Beverly suit getting mercilessly axed.
So just out of necessity, this whole process, I think that's Zane
That's
popping
Zane
up the back.
as Organ
Organ
Blob
Man.
Man.
Just the reality of shooting this thing, it essentially became give 2 fake axes to the actors and then just have them wail on Michael in the suit. For
So imagine a
15
guy
minutes.
inside that cocoon being battered by fake axes. And that's what half the day was. We also had the huge gag of Organ Man's head getting blown apart.
Which we had to do twice. And so we shot this movie on 2 cameras, the Canon C300 and C500. C300 Mark II and C500. Cameras are amazing. They see in the dark. You need very little lighting to light a scene, which is great, especially for this movie. Problem is that when you do a pyro gag, it looks like a nuclear explosion going off.
Yeah, it looks like they chucked a grenade at the monster.
So
Which
yeah,
would've
Organ
been
Sack
cool,
Man
now that I
gets
think
shot,
about it.
and it looks like basically a firebomb. So we had to fix that.
Do some VFX on that.
We did. I think we debated with the sort of logistics of, well, if you shot this thing, maybe it's full of gas and it would explode.
Yeah, trying to bullshit our way out of having to do
Yeah.
more work.
Justify it somehow, which was idiotic. So eventually we just fixed it.
I also want to point out that in that sequence we just saw, there's a lot of inserts that we did to flesh it out, like the creature getting axed and like pus coming out, and Art's head getting axed. And I think it all blends pretty seamlessly. There's a real testament to what you can get away with in movies.
Daniel and Mick, so good in this. Man, I think they were maybe the last people. I know Mick was the last person cast in the movie. Daniel was probably next to last.
Yeah, I think he was second last.
Right. So Mick literally was cast the day before, I think,
Yeah.
and then he was flown in.
And then given an axe and well, just
Yep.
go for it.
Yep, didn't have any time to have a conversation with him, just put him right into the thick of things. And man, these guys just instantly went to work. It was pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be saying that a lot, that we lucked out as far as
Yeah.
actors are concerned, because they just dived in.
Yeah, and I
brought
mean
the intensity you need for to really sell a movie like this, because it's it's preposterous everything that's happening, but they make it feel very real and immediate.
And it's just like thankless stuff, like Daniel getting, completely drenched in blood and having to sit on a floor for half a day.
Yeah, Aaron laying face down in a corner with a knife in his back.
Yeah, all these guys, like, they were very generous. With,
Kathleen laying on a morgue table. Oh God.
Yep.
And now I feel bad. We really put him through the ringer.
Yep. Mostly you.
Yeah.
Should probably apologize.
I did.
Do it again right now.
I want to formally apologize to the cast of The Void for subjecting them to my style of filmmaking, which is basically just constant torture.
Just
apparently.
drenching everybody in blood.
Yeah, just throwing blood on people and wrapping them in tentacles.
All right, that was very big of you.
Yeah, I'm a big man. Ugh.
In terms of story, the story of the film, I think the conversations leading into the movie, we're both fans of things like Lovecraft. We really enjoy the movie Prince of Darkness. That was a thing that came up. I think people have pointed out similarities to things like Assault on Precinct 13, a lot of Carpenter stuff, really. I would say that most of that is not really necessarily intentional. I mean, there's certainly a world that we like to inhabit. There's the kinds of movies we enjoy, but there's nothing like referencing anything specifically.
No, it's more just like tonally, we like those kinds of movies.
Mm-hmm. And we were not trying to make some 80s period, like, you know, throwbacky, whatever. I think, to me personally, sort of the genre of weird fiction, like, it's such a long-standing genre. I mean, certainly Carpenter was playing off a lot of those things with many of his movies. But things like Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith, there's some newer authors, well, newer in comparison, like Thomas Ligotti and Laird Barron and people like that. I think we're just very interested in that kind of weird mythos. And
Well, you like all that pretentious shit. I was just thinking about Silent Hill.
yeah, I like to read a book.
Yeah.
Yes, also Silent Hill, a big favorite of ours.
I really think that was like some of the earliest conversations were just like, how do you make like something with that kind of Silent Hill dread into a movie?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we feel like those movies maybe missed the mark a little bit.
Your words, not mine.
I
don't know. I think we like the idea of a story based around the unknowable. I like not knowing everything when I'm watching a film. I like to sort of experience it with the characters. I like to figure it out for myself. So for better or for worse, that's was certainly the intention here.
Well, kind of the way something like Alien operates, where like that movie doesn't really explain anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all the mythology of that movie came after the fact. But if you watch the original just on its own,
Right.
like there's really no information given to you. You're just given this situation and kind of like a bunch of seemingly random elements, and you have to piece it together yourself. And that style of filmmaking, I feel like they don't really do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you're not going alone. You have to promise to wait.
Yeah, I would, and also,
Promise?
I guess going back to like things like Silent Hill and stuff like that, I think Japanese horror movies also a big influence.
May I approach?
Probably, I think maybe we would have liked them to have been more of an influence, but you know, you start out making one thing, and what you end up with is not necessarily the thing you started out trying to make.
We also like threw a lot into this movie.
Absolutely.
This isn't exactly the most like concise concept,
No, not at all.
because it's like not aside from all the things you listed, we're also dealing with two people who have very different tastes making a movie together, where some of the tastes cross over, but I think
Yeah.
like, to speak candidly, our styles and our approaches are very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it worked well in this movie because they kind of like, I feel like it like was pretty cohesive, but I think we have like very different ideas in a lot of cases on how to approach some of this material, which ultimately just made it more interesting, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
To jump back a few scenes, when they push the Beverly monster out on that stretcher, that insert you see of her face burning on the ground was shot in your driveway.
Yep.
Without any sort of permission or safety procedures.
Well, we had my permission.
Shotguns.
That's true.
Front seat.
But yeah, setting fires in Jer's backyard. That's how you do it.
The ammo out of the trunk.
Burning toxic. What a foam? Or,
It was foam and silicone.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to seal the foam with silicone, but that didn't seem to really work. And then we just kind of threw it in a random dumpster and hoped that we'd never hear about it again. And we didn't. I think we succeeded.
Somebody may have.
Yes, somebody had to deal with that charred monster head, not us.
Yeah. Grace and Jim. Amazing.
Great lighting in this room.
Grace was an amazing find. We cast a lot of this movie just through self-tapes that we got. And man, did she stand out. She was kind of a no-brainer. I think she's got a very successful career ahead of her, but Bebop thinks so too.
Bebop agrees. Jesus Christ.
So probably the rest of this commentary is mostly just going to be dog barking.
I think we're good now.
Some fun shotgun effects coming up. It's fun to shoot off guns.
Yeah, that's my one of my regrets about this was not shooting more guns, because it is so much fun and so satisfying. Though in this sequence, when Aaron fires the shotgun, there was one take where it looked like the gun friggin' exploded in his hands.
Yeah, I wish there was a like outtakes blooper kind of thing on this DVD, because there was many hilarious problems that I think we captured.
Yeah, that was one of those things we didn't know guns could even really do that.
It looked more like a firework going off. It was very funny. Kind of almost like a shotgun flamethrower a little bit. Big jump scare coming.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Guys and girls, feel free to write in and let us know if that jump scare
How
made
scared
jump.
you were.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to terrified.
So scared.
A scale of 1 to freak the frig out. How freaked out were you? Another V
VFX.
effect.
So the disciple casting process was a bit of a problem. We asked for specific body types, just sort of, average kind of 5'10", 6 to 6'2", medium build kind of people.
Like in the trailer, the proof of concept, I played all the disciples, and we were pretty satisfied with how the robes sat on my body type. So we were trying to keep it consistent with that, and it was not what we got.
No, we got all shapes and sizes, which those are not flattering robes by any means.
Yeah, they're not forgiving.
And so it looked pretty weird. A lot of cleanup had to be done. And also it's like those two exterior nights at the school were so windy. And it was just hell. It was just hell nights.
Just looked like a bunch of frumpy ghosts hanging out.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, pretty soul-crushing for JR especially. That was the week where we had 3 heavy creature days and then our 2 night shoots. So I remember by the time we got to the night shoot days, I was already beat. So you took most of the soul crushing on that disciple night.
Well, and just the amount of work to clean up simple things is, fuck, so much work post in this movie.
Thank
Oh my
God you know how After Effects works.
Yeah, we did a lot of this movie ourselves.
It was a good chunk of the summer was just sitting at the computer, cleaning up shots.
Yeah, it was almost just like 9 months of sitting at a computer doing VFX. Again, wouldn't recommend it. Another terrifying jump scare.
Ah!
Some really good set deck and I don't know, just overall design. Like our friend Henry is a concept artist, and he was very interested in production design. So brought him in, and he did kind of a series of very fleshed out concept pieces over top of photos that we had taken in the school, so we could be very specific about how things would look. And then unfortunately he wasn't really able to spend much time on the location, so we kind of had to like grab the ball and make sure things ended up where they should end up. But I think in the end I'm very happy with all of that stuff.
Yeah, he really like his designs, I think, really helped get everybody on the same page and really established the look of the movie.
This phone shot, another one of the most crazy vis effect shots in the movie.
Well, like
Won't
this
bother
whole
explaining why.
the whole opening to this sequence changed.
Yeah.
So it necessitated some visual effects trickery, because originally they come in, they search around, then the phone rings. But we decided to change it because it felt very like
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of
pointless.
sense.
Like
This
them,
was
why are they going into this room? Why are they doing this? So we changed it so they hear the phone, and that's what prompts them to go into the room.
Yeah, that was a really good idea, and it's all made through editing, and I think it works way better than the original sort of idea. We made sure to have Ken in the room here having the phone conversation with Aaron, because I just feel like having to do that, like split that up, I think the performances would really suffer.
I really love Aaron in this part. It's just such a spooky sequence.
Those Polaroids were an interesting process to make. We had a machine that would basically print Polaroids, and I don't know. It's an interesting process of like fooling around making Polaroids. It was kind of fun.
Is that the thing that had the Werner Herzog
Yeah.
tutorial?
Yeah, it's Impossible Lab. I don't know, whatever Polaroid machine or whatever in the app that you use for it is narrated by Werner Herzog, and it's ridiculous.
The most crazy photo, kind of.
Yeah,
His
that was a
sick daughter.
fun photo shoot.
That's the corner of a random room we found in the school.
Yeah, had to de-age him.
The most hodgepodge, like, house set. We just grabbed a plant and a chair.
So a lot of this stuff, I think, is kind of standard tropes of like weird fiction, like finding books of forbidden knowledge and things like that.
Answering forbidden phones.
Yeah. There's a lot of sort of, especially in the set dressing of this room, there's a lot of little touches that
Ooh,
would give away.
foreshadowing. Here's a 100% Kostansky moment.
Yeah. Steve loves to rack shotguns and
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
tough.
Now the movie starts. It's action time.
We had a lot of people doing music for this movie, myself included. It was, oof.
It's a real collaboration
But yeah,
that I thankfully got to sit out on.
oh God, the post process on this movie is one of the worst times of my life,
Yeah.
and thankfully we have a movie at the end of it.
Something happens. What if those people get in here? What are we supposed to do?
I think the score, it all blends pretty seamlessly, considering there's so many random elements being thrown together. I really like the atmosphere it generates.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of keeping it sort of
And,
consistent throughout.
Avoided having a bullshit synthesizer
Yeah,
score.
we really consciously were trying to avoid doing like a synth wave kind of hard techno whatever score, which is very like fashionable these days.
What were some of the scores that we were listening to? Like Sicario was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
The True Detective score is pretty great.
Yeah, Lustmord was a guy during the writing process I think we were listening to almost exclusively, and we were very lucky to get him involved in the movie and have some of his music in it. But yeah, it's just like it all comes down to time and money and constantly finding out that you have less of both. And so you're just struggling to get things done. It's a tough process making a movie. Making a movie is hard.
Yep. Making a good movie is even harder.
Near impossible.
Yep. It's like you're just constantly fighting a losing battle.
Mm-hmm.
But when it works, it's awesome. Evan really selling this sequence.
Stop! Listen to me. How is he alive? What is he?
It's not a real hammer. People were wondering, and we're very concerned for his safety. Movie magic, folks.
I met a girl on
Yep.
the road, and she told me she could help me score crystals, so I followed her. This fucking pill house. Except it wasn't a pill house. What was it?
What's another fun story?
It's an old farmhouse.
You can just speak up.
Fucking junkies. It was a mess.
We have notes being passed to us here.
He has drugs.
Um,
He watched us have sex.
yeah, there was. Eh.
Oh God, what?
Nah, it's just little things. Little things here and there.
There's a bunch of people.
Oh, should we talk about how we had to cut down on the swearing?
Oh yeah, that's a thing that, especially when you have a bunch of people in a room, you're going super quickly. Actors tend to fall back on swearing a lot, and it becomes like almost like a virus to the point where everybody is saying it.
This scene, I think, is
Constantly.
a good example too, because this is one of our more intense, like, actor sequences. And so every time you do a take, the intensity builds and builds, and then people start dropping in fucks, and next thing you know, it's every second word is fuck. And so we had to go back and kind of clean up the language a bit, because as you're shooting it, it's like, yeah, this is intense, you'd be saying that, but then you realize every scene is somebody cussing their hearts out.
That's
And,
right. So right
that's
now,
my silhouette walking by that you can barely see.
yeah, in an insert, Steve is gonna take the helm because I'm
Yep.
gonna go to the bathroom.
Okay. So here we are in our burned out hospital wing set. Originally, we were going to shoot in an abandoned hospital. And we scouted the location. There's an abandoned hospital in Sault Ste. Marie that was perfect for this. And turns out by the time we were able to get to it, it was unsafe to shoot in. And so we had to build like a fake burned hospital wing in the upstairs of the school that we were shooting in. So the main level was all the regular hospital stuff, and then upstairs was the burned wing. And I really gotta give the art department credit for going all out and really making this stuff look convincing. It was another one of those cases where I was like, oh, is this really gonna work, or is this gonna look like a shitty horror movie set? Like, I just didn't want it to look like a like Saw or something. It was just like drips coming down the walls, but really works well.
The door to the morgue?
Very survival horror sequence here, I think. Going through spooky hallways, communicating by radio. I love the lighting in that shot. It's a real testament to the idea that less is more. Just illuminating that stuff by flashlight makes it especially convincing.
Hello?
Actually, in this sequence, we cut out, there's a moment where they discover that the hallways are actually shifting. And so we shot them walking through the halls, and then they reach a dead end, and then the hallways are changing. And the idea is that they've kind of descended into hell, basically, and everything is shifting around them. But in the early cut of the movie, watching it through. It kind of just dragged. So we wanted to get to the action a little faster, so we cut that sequence entirely. And that was our other appearance of that
Meat blob.
pulsing meat blob. Where,
That was a cool sequence too, unfortunately.
yeah. During one of their conversations about the shifting hallways, Mick reaches behind him, touches the wall, and he gets blood on his fingers, and we push in on this pulsing blob in the shadows, and it was really cool. But we didn't use it.
And this is like, I mean, I think you were talking about this a little bit already, but sort of the idea here, the movie becomes much more abstract in a literal sense, where we kind of had the idea that Powell is changing and the hospital is changing with him, and they're essentially becoming one in a way. And so they're kind of, as they're going down the staircase, they're now sort of entering into Powell.
Yeah, they're entering his mind, essentially.
Which, like, again, I think this movie leaves a lot to interpretation very intentionally. I think we do give all of the pieces for you to put together, and sort of you can put it together in whatever way you want, I guess. But there's certainly very specific ideas and plot points going on here.
Yeah, it's a very rich tapestry.
It sure is.
But just want to point out in that sequence we just saw, that was day 2, was them at the top of those stairs.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's where we threw Mick and Daniel in.
That was their first scene.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember being very stressed that, like, we're jumping so far ahead in the movie, and they're, you know, having to adjust their intensity accordingly. But I think it worked really well. I also almost fell down that staircase. Almost took a really bad spill. That could have been the end of everything. Or maybe things would have gone on smoother.
Or maybe
Who
the
knows?
beginning.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe we'd have a very different movie.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about having to build all of those tunnels and stuff. The original hospital that we were going to shoot in, the dilapidated, kind of shut down, gigantic hospital. The whole reason we went to Sault Ste. Marie in the first place. It was such a cool place. It was so legitimately scary, and I think it kind of had something maybe kind of ineffable that you couldn't recreate necessarily.
Yeah, you can't fake that kind of decay.
Yeah, and so you know, the art department really did an amazing job, and the carpenters, God, they turned around so much so quickly, and we certainly, you know, I think it works. But there's just something about the atmosphere of that place. It felt very, very scary. We got lost in there multiple times.
Pretty sure there were ghosts.
Our poor effects guy inhaled one of the flares smoke at this point and got sick.
This was like right at the end of the shoot.
Yeah, this is second last day.
I think so. This was the day we came in early and dressed all that shit around. Basically just took all the hospital gear we could find and just threw it in the corners and put plastic over it.
Yeah, everything is moving so fast. We would basically show up to sets and kind of see what we had to work with. I guess we would generally see it the night before, but we would try and get in there and get our hands dirty and, you know, make everything as good as we could.
Should talk about the morgue that we were
Sure,
just. I guess we're
that's
coming back to it, but man, what a great set.
Yeah, that was the high school cafeteria originally, and we kind of had 2 phases to this movie. The first time around, we had a different set deck and props team, and I think they did the majority of that room originally because it was basically ready to go.
And Henry did a really good concept for it as well. That was a great template for what to build. He took like a photo of that room empty and kind of dressed everything in Photoshop.
And Henry is so good at lighting, using light and shadow, and so I think with all of his concept pieces, we really tried to like pattern it off of his stuff as much as possible. And we very specifically referenced it for the Allison monster later on, which we can talk about when we get to. But yeah, he's got a good eye. Yeah, so this hallway, I remember my stomach sinking here. We were in this hallway, and a lot of it was dressed with the tile and sort of particle board stuff almost from the ceiling.
Because they were literally just like ripping stuff out of
Yeah.
other rooms to use as dressing.
Yeah.
Like it was everything they could find, everything and anything.
And I remember somebody posing the question, was there asbestos in any of this stuff? And
As the whole crew and actors and everybody was like standing in this little hallway.
yeah, and as we were blocking it out or whatever, and everybody just went silent, and that became an issue that then had to be investigated, even though it already was through most of the school. Like everything that would have had asbestos was marked.
And that was also day 2.
Yes, day 2.
This was after we did that dark stairwell sequence.
Oh
We did
yeah,
this
that's
part.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. God, this was stressful.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the stuff they're standing on there, and essentially it was we never had time to waste. Like if we didn't make a day, there was not really any coming back.
Yeah. The
So-
few times we did have to do that were like pretty nightmarish, where we'd have to split off with B camera.
Mm-hmm.
Like we basically needed every possible second.
But anyways, standing there with the minutes ticking by, just staring at the ground, everybody in silence, it was like a sort of near heart attack moment. It's like, well, I guess the movie's fucked now.
What do you think Powell does on that little computer of his?
Oof.
Plays Oregon Trail.
That might even be a little sophisticated for that thing.
It's a pretty wicked computer, I gotta say. It's a nice little little addition.
It does feel straight out of Alien. This is the sort of shifting hallway that we come to later, which I'm sure we can talk about when we get to it. But it was a pretty cool set.
That was our cameo by the
Trailer monster.
the creature from the trailer that made it onto a couple of our Indiegogo posters as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the file stuff was an insert. It's kind of fun to make that stuff. It's like fun to. My favorite thing about making movies is sort of building the world that they take place in, and so like any little touch that you can add like that, I think it's cool. It's fun.
Yeah, well, I love building up, especially if you've got like a creature, like some kind of horror element, like slowly building teases to it, to the reveal is always fun.
Mm-hmm. All that set dressing basically found in the school, except for those big tubes right behind Powell there, which were, I think
They had like rotten, like,
yeah, they had actual animal pieces in it that Damon made, and they were like soaking in bleach or something. So they were there for.
they were just sitting
months.
outside fermenting
Yeah,
forever.
it was pretty gross. I don't envy the person who had to get rid of that stuff when we were done.
Great makeup coming up, sculpted by Damon Bishop and applied by Zane Nisley and Nicola Bendry. And with VFX by Doug Cook to black out his eyes. Fun bit of advice for you. It's super expensive to get contact lenses in your movies because you need to have a lens tech, and that
A
costs a lot of
lens
money.
tech.
Yeah. So it's actually simpler to just do it after the fact.
Anything you do in a movie is expensive. Even
Yeah.
turning the camera, like at a different angle, it's like 15 minutes setup.
Yeah, and every minute is money.
It's just
Money going down the toilet.
yeah.
So here we are in the red chamber, our favorite day.
It seems like every part we get to, we're like, this is the worst day. This was really the worst day.
Yeah, this maybe was a little ambitious for this movie. The idea of them encountering like a room full of crazy Frankensteins.
Yeah, it's kind
But,
of like it's one of my least favorite sets. It's it's a half a day to shoot. We
And-
have so many like creature performers.
And we had like a cool idea for a lighting gimmick that I think, like,
It
it
needed
works
some testing
in
a
some
little bit.
ways, but I think we needed more time.
Well, we needed a
to
bigger
finesse it.
room, I think.
Well, bigger room also, like, it's not a very forgiving way to light creatures. It's
No.
essentially just one color and it washes them out. There's not a lot of shadows to hide them in, unfortunately. So there's a lot of inserts here that we had to do. We basically had to rebuild this room after the fact and convince some poor souls to play patient monsters.
Yeah, so again, this is like a lot of people playing creatures who are just people off the street, essentially. And so you're bringing in the actors, you're setting up lights, cameras, you're trying to explain to them what's
Just
going on
want
in
to point
the
out
scene.
that's a hand puppet, in case people
great.
didn't know that. A wicked hand puppet for Bloody Whole Face Man.
Yeah, it looks great. So you have all these people who are not really creature performers necessarily, and they're kind of just one of 100 different things you're dealing with. So they show up, you dress them up, and they're like, what are we? And so you try and explain it to them in like 30 seconds before they're on screen. And so everybody just goes into basically standard zombie shamble mode.
Yeah.
And there's not, I don't know, man.
I think one issue was trying to have everything happen. Like we split the sequence into 2 chunks, and so having things happen in like almost like doing it all in these big masters where you have to coordinate everybody at once instead of breaking it up into a million little pieces, which is how you should do a sequence like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, like this on a real movie, this would take days. These stomach inserts are all done after the fact. It's the VFX also, and we should mention that the monster that grabs Carter earlier there and then gets shotgun blasted in the face has the face of one of our Indiegogo contributors on it that Steve made.
Yep. Indiegogo contributor as well as Adam Brooks in his cameo as well. Ooh, we should talk about Troy.
Yeah, Troy's the first guy that we cast in the movie. He's the
plays,
spider walking thing here.
Who dubbed the Sleepwalker.
Sleepwalker.
Yeah, Troy's a contortionist, and
But not by profession, really.
no, he just
He's like,
is a bendy man.
yeah, he's like a social worker or he's an HR or something. And but he's just like the nicest, sweetest guy who's super, super generous, just will do whatever. And so we brought him in and made him this horrible creature.
Yeah, we kind of created the creature for him.
Yeah.
Essentially, like,
He
gave
seemed
him this little
thrilled.
sequence.
He was very happy with the end product. I think.
Super accommodating.
This throat cut
gag.
ate up a lot of time. Turned out really good, thankfully.
Yep. Any kind of blood gag always causes me to have a nervous breakdown because you don't know what blood's going to do. It could go anywhere, could not go anywhere. Nothing could happen, everything could happen. So it's, I'm glad that it worked and looks pretty wicked.
Oh.
To carry his child. Nothing else matters now.
I really like Grace here. I think she's
Yeah.
so good.
Her little sway back and forth, really unsettling.
Yeah, I remember finding her kind of out in the hallway, and she just looked like she was like about to lose it. And I went up to her. I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm just getting into the character." I'm like, "Oh,
Oh, cool.
that makes
I
sense."
guess that's the thing people do on real movies. That's cool.
She looked really sad. That's Steve's hand grabbing
Yep.
a walkie-talkie.
Another cool cameo by Steve's hand.
This is where the movie becomes Suspiria.
Yep.
So a lot of fake disciples here.
Yeah. Just
Stand-ups, like scarecrows, basically, that the art department made. It's kind of funny. Somebody kept placing one of them in different parts of the school for people to find and scare the shit out of themselves.
coming up on one of the more surreal moments in the movie. Going back to our one location day.
Yeah, so the interior of the house coming up it's the same house as the exterior from the beginning of the movie. I mean, we got a lot done that day. It was pretty great that we were able to kind of get everything, but
Daniel insisting on wearing that cowboy hat there.
yeah, that was his call. That was also Matt's baby River in that photo. Fun fact. Yeah, but it's amazing that we got to do what we got to do in here, like filling with smoke, lighting off a flare inside.
Yeah, there was a bit of a concern that we weren't going to be able to do the flare gag, but there was a some sort of workaround figured out by our
The,
effects guys.
Yeah, that was good. And these guys did a really bang-up job of doing their own stunts here.
Oh yeah, Mick getting thrown on the ground here is
That's
solid.
pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Daniel is such a like get your hands dirty guy. Like he has a military background and has worked on farms, and he wants to do everything himself.
Which is exactly what you want on this kind of movie. It's
Absolutely.
like very physical. That was my
Steve's
feet.
with me on top of him on our friend Pierce's apartment floor.
Just choking me for real. Just letting that anger out. Here we are back in our burned out hospital sets. Yeah, Daniel's a super intense guy. When we first met him,
He's
I
very
gotta-
intimidating.
I gotta admit, I was a little scared of him.
Yeah.
You-
Well, it's funny because you cast people and then they just show up and like you don't have any
Yeah,
relationship with them at all. They just
you just start giving them orders, basically.
yeah.
You feel super weird about it.
But then as the movie goes, the whole dynamic evolves and everybody kind of becomes a weird family. And
It's such a weird situation.
It
to
really
throw people
is.
into, and especially a
Yeah.
movie like this where every day is like, and then this blob thing comes out of this monster, and
Right.
it just gets so nutty that you naturally form these friendships just by the absurdity of the situation.
yeah, and we were lucky to have like a cast that was very receptive to all the ideas, and I don't know, I think we gave them a lot of latitude to take the ball and run with it as well, which only makes things better. The sound design in this movie actually started out as a really fun process. That's one of my favorite things. And we had some pretty cool people helping us out there. I would hope that people see this movie the way it was intended and like full surround, because that's definitely the way to hear and see this movie. But there's some pretty sophisticated stuff going on that like an independent movie generally shouldn't have. I mean, you could kind of say the same of everything. Like we're again milking everything we can out of the money that we had, which again was nothing. But
And I mean, as far as sound design goes, this is the kind of movie where you're dealing with all this otherworldly stuff. It's not like, oh, just drop in like a door closing sound. It's like,
yeah, I
you
mean,
gotta get creative with it, and you gotta like for creature sounds, like it's a lot of mixing. multiple
creating stuff
things
from
together.
scratch, basically. Like you are inventing a lot of things from the ground up. But I'm really proud of like the mix in this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's quite an achievement. I will say that we just recently watched a movie, an independent movie made for the same budget, maybe slightly higher than ours.
Yeah.
I won't mention any names, but Jesus Christ, I don't know where the money went on that. They must have buried it in a hole in the ground.
Maybe they got paid.
Yeah, maybe they got paid. What's that like, I wonder?
Yeah, we'll never know. Here we are at probably the most abstract part of the movie, and coming up on the last day of shooting as well. Fun story, this creature was basically assembled the night before shooting.
Yeah, out of pieces from every other creature,
Basically,
basically.
ripped every other monster apart, stuck it to the walls, and threaded plastic wrap everywhere.
Yeah, it
A
was
great
you,
Zane
me,
trick.
Zane, Nicola, and Nash, and we just stayed there all night dressing this thing.
Everybody else went to see Star Wars
Force
Awakens. This is the premiere,
Yeah.
and we stayed and made this monster.
And I will say that I think Zane really unlocked the key to this thing using all of those sort of web-like strands there are saran wrap, which
It's a great gimmick. It
Oh
feels
my God.
feels very alien.
yeah, I would say like that wide right here is, I mean, that's pretty much Henry's concept.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with how that turned out. Like that's one of my favorite images in the movie.
I'm just really happy with the sequence as a whole. Like I feel like it's a legitimately weird sequence, and the way we like kind of cut around and show things without really showing them. I feel like
Yeah.
that was our intention, like behind the whole movie.
I agree. And I think there was sort of some, I guess, concern of how people might take this part during the script writing process and all that. And it's, I mean, this at this point, the movie is very representational and not necessarily literal. And so I don't know. I think we have a history of people really misinterpreting
Yeah.
things that we do. And so
I
sometimes
feel like that's just like a common problem
Yeah,
for a
and
lot of filmmakers.
I would never like tell somebody to not sort of go with their intention, but it's just sort of exhausting sometimes having to constantly explain yourself or like justify why you're doing what you're doing.
Here we are in the temple set.
This set is nuts.
Yep.
This is
So-
built in a high school gym, basically taking up the entire thing. Carpenters and art department totally nailed it. Again, on a movie of this budget, the fact that we did this is fucking absurd.
Yeah. Again, a testament to Henry's genius and his concept art that he did of the temple set really gave us a good direction and put everybody on the same page.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with how this turned out. It was pretty wild to be there, standing in this thing.
Well, I remember going in early on, and they were like just starting those like pillars,
Mm-hmm.
and being like, "Oh, geez, this is quite the undertaking."
Yeah, I almost wish that we had even wider lenses here, because like I just feel like no matter what we did, you could not really communicate the size of this place.
Yeah. Oh, here comes Darth Powell. That is David Scott, who is a creature effects artist from Toronto, who not only was nice enough to play this creature in the movie, because we had a body mold of him already, but he let us rent his shop, and that's where we built all the creature effects for the movie. So, yeah, saved our butts by being so generous.
Mm-hmm.
Another speed sculpt by me. Face, hands, chest, back, cowl, all done in like 3 or 4 days, I think. But I'm pretty happy with how it came together. This is one of the cases of a creature, I think, from like concept to finished product is pretty much how I imagined it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with a lot of creature stuff, you got to make compromises and changes along the way. But this one, like I remember when he came to set, all finished and applied, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what I saw in my head.
Mm-hmm. I remember taking, I think it was like a gaffer or something that was potentially going to come and do the movie, and walking him through all of the sets, trying to explain what was going on in each of these places. So it was essentially trying to explain this movie out of order, and saying it out loud. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. It was like
Having a
just
crew
sounded
of like
idiots.
people, like just having like 50 people standing around and being like, okay, so this is the part where like the skeleton man
Yeah.
does this, and then like a gate opens and this girl's belly explodes.
But at the same time, like,
Bless my baby.
if you're making a movie, just go for it, because so many people half-ass everything when they're making a movie. And
They
you
do
can-
like what's most convenient for them. It's
exactly.
Like, well,
What's
I
going
only
to
have
be
this.
easy?
Yeah, what's gonna like get me home for dinner tonight?
Right.
It's like, no, you should make the biggest, craziest thing you can make. Treat every movie like it's the last movie you're gonna make.
Yeah. Because nothing about making this movie was easy. I think we did everything. We did all of the most hard things you can do in a movie, all in one movie for nothing. And, I don't know. I mean, I hope you like it. If you don't,
I feel like how friggin'
you're welcome
crazy
to
it
go
gets.
fuck yourself. I don't know
Well,
why
that's-
you'd be watching this with commentary if you'd have no interest in this movie.
Jared's
You were a
opinions do
masochist.
not reflect mine necessarily. I
Yeah.
don't say fuck you to anyone.
No,
Thank
Steve's
you-
never
thank you
said
for
fuck
listening.
you to anyone.
Nope, nobody, never. And here's our first appearance of the fetus monster, played by Jay Deathridge, who also fabricated the majority of the suit, and also Chris Nash in a few shots, specifically when he's getting shot at. 'Cause we just love Chris so much.
Shoot directly into his face with a shotgun. Why
Yep.
not? Yeah, this was a cool creature. There's a lot of, I mean, I think we planned for a lot of cleanup on him.
Just the nature of what it is.
Yeah, because
like,
his back legs are puppeteered. So there's an operator with basically in like a black ninja outfit following behind him. And I would say 90% of this is untouched.
Yeah, a lot of it's just good editing and like some trick camera angles, but I think it works pretty darn well for how absurd it is. It was a fun moment getting to pour blood all over Daniel under that while he lay under that creature. I actually think this was my like nervous breakdown day because we did 2 Beverly monster days, then we did the fetus monster day.
Yeah,
And
there was,
at the
there was
end
a
of it,
lot.
I passed out because it was just the mental stress of trying to coordinate all this stuff was too much.
And we're also, we had a dummy version of this creature that we were going to set on fire here, which never actually ended up getting used just because we completely ran out of time.
And also, like, up to that point, our experience with doing any kind of, like, fire stuff, we realized how long it takes.
Yeah,
and
it was
we
going to
needed
take,
every
we had
minute.
like 15 minutes basically to do the biggest burn on the movie, and that was not going to happen.
This was the day that had that depressing lunch where we were sitting there
Just
in the
crossing
cafeteria.
off
Yeah, we had our
the storyboards.
storyboards and just putting X's through shots,
Yeah,
being like,
it's
you're not going to
miserable.
get this or this or this. And it was very soul crushing, especially after you put all that work into building these creatures and sets and everything. The idea that you get to do the bare minimum with them.
Mm-hmm. I certainly, like, I'm happy with the way the creature is presented in this. I think, I don't know. I don't know if the burn in the end would have,
I don't think it
Been
would
any
have added
better.
anything.
no.
Really, I'm quite happy with just doing the like flame bar in front gimmick.
That felt like a very solid, like, director call to be like, we're just not doing this. Because it would have eaten up the rest of the afternoon, and then we would have ended up not getting everything else that we needed.
Well, and that was the day that we had to buy our hour of overtime as well.
Oh, yeah, so there's a
Because
fun
we had to
thing.
do the collapsing hallway sequence, which is coming up in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, our first AD did, you know, he made mountains move to put the schedule together because we are running all over the place making this movie inside this school. And so, you know, it's just the realities of making a movie. Everything takes so much time. And so one day it was just an impossible day. And there was no overtime budgeted into this movie.
And so our choice was either we just don't shoot the ending of the movie,
Right.
or
Don't
we
have the
pay
ending of
for
the
it
movie.
ourselves.
Yeah, so we present to you the ending of the movie, paid for out of our own pockets.
Yep. Coming up on a wicked stunt.
You know what? If you are listening to this, you probably bought the movie and hopefully are putting money into somebody's pockets. Probably not ours, but
yeah, somebody's gonna buy that boat.
But if
or
you bought this
whatever.
movie, bless you,
Yeah.
because you know it's impossible at this point to make money doing movies. It seems. There's. I'm not going to go down this road. This isn't going to be a good road.
Jared's going down a dark road,
Yeah.
much like the characters in this film we're watching. Moving on.
So much could be said that probably just shouldn't be said.
We're coming up on the collapsing corridor sequence, which is yet another absurd, ambitious idea that I feel like more rational people maybe wouldn't have even attempted. But we were like, yeah, there's a part where he's running in the hallways collapsing on him. What's the big deal?
Right. So in ideation, this was sort of more of like a, I guess, meat corridor. Like it was more of.
Yeah, it was more like the esophagus in Poltergeist. Or at least that's what I imagined.
Yeah. Yeah. But what we ended up with is incredible that we got it. It's because I don't think we had anything sort of once we were halfway into the shooting, and that's
That
when
was
they
the
started
last thing they
building
built.
it. And we didn't know if there's going to be money to do it, so we were kind of like, oh, can we even do this end to the movie? But thankfully, once again, art department and carpenters worked miracles. We had like everybody from the office and everything behind those walls pushing it.
Poor Mick and Jay running, getting crushed.
Yeah. Mick was like such a trooper. Like he was like, try and crush me. I will get out no matter what. And he always did.
And he'd always throw himself at the end of the hall onto the ground.
Mick loves to throw himself on concrete floors, whether he
Yeah.
needs to or not.
Pretty hardcore.
And then, of course, Jay in the monster suit would get crushed every time.
Getting
And
smushed.
Sammy.
Yeah.
We're operating the camera. What's in that closet? Steve, what's in there?
The Void 2.
Oof. Don't open that door.
Yeah, just turn right around. Take that fire extinguisher and turn right around.
It's pretty amazing that we did all of the stuff that we did in this movie. It's kind of unbelievable.
It's pretty absurd. I mean, we were wearing so many hats on this thing, too.
Yeah, we really broke our backs making this movie. I feel like we worked in every capacity on it. And, it's what you got to do if you're going to make a movie, I guess.
Go big or go home.
Yeah.
Go big or frig off.
So this is the end of the movie.
Coming up on our last big visual effects sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest reveal of the movie. And technically the first image ever conceived for the movie.
Yeah, this is where the entire movie kind of came from. This is not a reference to The Beyond. I love The Beyond. Fulci is a great filmmaker, in my opinion. I enjoy his movies. This is not specifically meant to evoke anything from The Beyond.
Nope.
It kind of turned out that way. Sometimes these things happen. What can I say?
Really what you were inspired by was Stargate.
Yep. It was definitely Stargate. Stargate
Yeah.
Atlantis, the TV show.
Yeah, great. Love it.
I just love Stargate Atlantis so much, you guys.
Just a huge gatehead. What are Stargate fans called?
Gateheads.
Star Boys.
Gate Lords.
Atlantis Gate Lords.
So this is the Gate Lord here. Again, like the effects, man, they were hard to get to, but in the end, I think it turned out.
Remember when that pyramid was supposed to have a big face on the bottom? Another
No,
great
not
Steve
really.
idea that you shut down.
We were supposed to actually shoot that in a location, which,
Scouted.
business as usual, we lost. And that wasn't like, we kind of shot that green screen stuff as a backup for the ending, and surprise, surprise, that's all we had to work with.
Yeah, so a real testament to the skill of people at Intelligent Creatures I
Mhm.
really like how that green screen stuff turned out.
Yeah, we worked those guys hard, so I'm happy that
And-
it turned out.
The running theme of this commentary, how great Henry is. He did, he kind of did some like lighting references and stuff for them, I remember, in terms of the landscapes.
Sort of. I did the majority of that stuff.
Well, I still feel like he advised on that stuff, which
Yeah,
definitely
for sure.
helped
Yeah.
with the finished
Absolutely.
product. You got something
Absolutely.
against Henry?
Yep.
God damn it.
No, he did a great job all around. And Kathleen and Aaron, selling that nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
because they're just in front of a screen staring at a gym wall.
And there's a big fan pointed at them.
Mm-hmm.
Stefano and that fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was not a lot to work with there, and they made something out of it.
Right. So I don't know where we are in
Running
the
theme of
credits
the movie.
because we can't see them, but there's
Just a
probably
black screen.
we're coming up to a giant list of Indiegogo supporters who, this is your fault. You
Yeah.
paid for this, so
If that
this is on
Indiegogo
you.
had tanked, we wouldn't have had to have made this movie, and maybe not be the broken men that we are now.
But seriously, thank you very much to everybody who contributed because, like I say, it's very difficult to make a movie, and to have support from people who are into this kind of thing it means a lot.
We hope the movie delivered everything that you hoped and dreamed it would be. If not, Jared's email is jeremygillespie@gatelord.net.
Steve he mouthed to me, "Go fuck yourself," to you guys.
I did not, because I've never said that in my life. to
No,
anyone.
well, he didn't say it out loud, but he very clearly.
I say, yeah. Well, I've said it in my mind, but you're implying that I said it out loud as well.
Nope. I'm saying you mouthed it silently to me. It was very clear what you were doing.
Mhm.
I don't agree. I think
Mhm.
these people, I think they're all fine people. I'm very happy they gave us their money. And
I want to apologize for Jared's conduct on this commentary. I feel like
I just want to apologize
you
to all those
have-
gate lords out there that Steve doesn't
Feel-
respect you.
no
He doesn't
respect.
anything.
I have no respect for life, love, or anything. Thanks
Thank you
for
very
listening.
much.
That really ended on a high note. Jesus Christ.